All right, welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy that called Derek Brunson defeating Jared Cannonier. Don't you forget that. All right, main event of the evening. Alex Pereira challenging for Israel Adesanya's title. This is an awesome matchup and a rivalry. In case you don't know, Pereira beat Israel Adesanya twice in kickboxing, and he knocked him out in the last one. So, what do we even need to talk about here? Really. Pereira wins. All right, like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other video. I'm kidding. I saw the fights. Pereira was losing both fights. Or he was losing certainly the last one before the knockout, and I thought he lost the first one. Adesanya is the quicker fighter. He was, anyway. And he's still a dangerous fighter. Is he hurt Pereira badly in that second fight? Right before the knockout in the round beforehand, and that's why Pereira came out with such urgency in round 3. Pereira, and I don't want to make that point. You can make the point like I did with Frankie Edgar and Cheeto Vera. He was winning the fight, and Adesanya was winning the fight, but much like Cheeto Vera, who was an opportunistic killer, Alex Pereira is an opportunistic killer, and he's got harder power than anybody in the fucking world, maybe. He's got a lot of power, and when he wants to increase his odds of touching your chin, it's going to work out for him generally. It took a moment, it took desperation for him to be in that mode, but still, I think, Alex Pereira is one of the, probably the most deadly striker in the world, in the UFC, maybe in kickboxing for all I know. I'm not really in that realm of kickboxing, but he's a damn dangerous fighter. Technically, though, I do think he's at a disadvantage against Israel. Israel is technically more sound and sharper, quicker, more accurate, all the adjectives, aside from power. And, again, Israel did hurt Pereira at the end of round 2 in their second fight. He had him, almost out. And I thought Israel, I think Israel, with 4-ounce gloves, has a good chance of getting a finish. Again, these guys were wearing whatever, 10, 12-ounce gloves, whatever they wear. Could be fucking heavier for all I know. But not only does that help with the opponent's defense, but it helps, it also helps with cushion on their chins. And that won't be the case here. So I think a finish is likely in this fight, to be honest. I think Pereira, with his knockout power and the 4-ounce gloves now, it's, there's a much greater chance he finds a finish or breaks his hand. And Israel Adesanya, the same thing. Even though he doesn't have the power that Pereira has, he's a powerful striker, and he's very accurate. And, against the guy that he had hurt with 10-ounce gloves on, I think with 4-ounce gloves, Israel, would have put him away in that moment. Still, these guys have both evolved. Adesanya's had a whole MMA career, and I do expect him to be better overall as an MMA fighter. That's really the interesting aspect of this fight, is what's going to happen aside from kickboxing. Even in the clinch, what's going to happen? I do think Pereira is stronger, but I have it in my head, Izzy is more technical everywhere. And I do think on the ground, certainly, jiu-jitsu wise, Israel Adesanya is a much more refined fighter. I don't see Pereira locking up that triangle or even attempting one like Israel had on Kelvin Gastelum. I made it sound like he locked up a triangle and it was close. But Israel definitely, I think his submission instincts are there, where he's just better on the ground than Pereira would be, even though he's training with Glover Teixeira for years now. And, I'm sure they're tailoring everything he does that's non-kickboxing to his strengths, where, you're not going to see him pulling guard. But anyway, wrestling-wise, I do think Pereira is a stronger guy. Probably could find success against Israel Adesanya, bullying him around in the clinch and even on top if he was inclined to do so. But I don't see either one of these guys really trying to make it such a grappling fight. I think they will try to do it to throw their opponent's rhythm off on their feet and to score points, of course. But long term, I just don't see either one of them sustaining a wrestling game plan or, anything but a kickboxing game plan for 5 rounds. And if they do, I don't think that's I think they'll fall apart a little bit cardiovascularly, in pursuit of shit they're uncomfortable doing. But still, they're going to need to find those wrinkles because this is a new sport, and that shit's there to be taken advantage of. Who's going to strike an opportunistic double leg? Who's going to, pin the other one against the cage and work them over? Rip them to the mat even if you can't hold them down. Just making them work is going to be beneficial to either one of these guys. And again, even though I do think Pereira is more physical, and I do think he's going to have advantages against Adesanya, in different positions if they were grappling, like just in the clinch or whatever. I just think Adesanya is more technically sound. He's been at it for much longer, and I do think he would find the advantage in most of the non-kickboxing scenarios. But then kickboxing is kickboxing, and again, I favor Izzy to be the more technical striker, but Pereira, he's looked better since they fought in kickboxing. He's gotten some beautiful knockouts on the kickboxing scene, which I'm not Mr. Kickboxing, but I still know who Jason Wilness is, and that's a guy who was saying Pereira was just a boxer, and then Pereira kicked him in the head and knocked him out with a knee, like, Uriah Hall versus Musasi without the spinning attack. But Pereira, I think, it's possible he turned a corner there kickboxing-wise. He certainly looked like a damn good, a much better kickboxer 3 years ago than he did 6 years ago. Although the flip side to that is he was fighting Adesanya in those fights, and Adesanya is quicker than Jason Wilness. He's taller, more similar in stature to Pereira himself. But he's not as powerful. And still, Israel was able to hurt him in round 2 anyway. So, I don't know. There's a lot of wrinkles to this fight. My prediction for the fight, I'm going Adesanya. I think Adesanya wins. I think he even wins with a late TKO. I just think if either one of these guys is getting hurt, and if, certainly Pereira is put in any uncomfortable spots, Adesanya is going to be good enough to get him out of there. With those 4-ounce gloves, he's going to be able to hurt him. And Pereira, as deadly as he is, and as tough as he is, I don't think he's a guy that can be on the losing end, taking ass kicking this early in his MMA career to a guy like Israel Adesanya and survive. I know he's been in there with great kickboxers and whatever, but this is different. This is MMA. There are 4-ounce gloves, and there's no letting. If they were fighting, like if that second fight was a kickboxing fight or was an MMA fight. And I know they would have fought differently and whatever, but there would have been a standing TKO for Israel Adesanya. He would have won via a second-round knockout. The fight never would have gone to the third round for him to get knocked out. So there's definitely more room for a finish here, and there's no standing 8 counts or whatever either. And that's why my bet for the fight is the under. Under 4.5 rounds, even money. Of course, I think if Pereira wins, it is via knockout. And if Israel Adesanya wins, I think there's a much better chance of a knockout than there is in most of his other fights. I really think so here with a guy like Pereira, even though he's been able to take it, historically on the chin and whatever. This is, again, different sport. So I think different sport, different gloves, different result. I'm going Israel Adesanya. I'll take 3rd round TKO, but my only bet, again, is the under, even money. And I say that as of now. Of course, I'm going to get drunk and bet on Israel Adesanya to win via submission in every round because I'm a degenerate and those odds are juicy. But I'm not inclined to think that'll happen. All right, like, share, subscribe, all that horseshit. Check out my other videos.